What is the craziest war tactic used in history? When the Anzacs pulled out of Gallipoli, they converted some of their rifles to be self-firing, using string to pull the trigger and water dripping out of a can for the timer, and left them behind to make it seem like they were still occupying their abandoned trenches. So for a few hours the Ottomans were defending against well-armed beef tins. Not exactly a crazy tactic, but Alexander the Great wanted to attack the island city of Tyre in modern-day Lebanon. It was a half-mile off the coast. Key word was, they built a bridge of rock to get close enough to for archers etc. Eventually turned it into a peninsula 2,400 years later. It's still a peninsula. Invading Rome on elephant back has to be up there. In World War I, the British air dropped opium-laced cigarettes on the enemy, and then when they started smoking and fell asleep they attacked the trenches. This happened twice. The Persian Empire was noted as putting their largest men on their smallest ponies and organizing them into parade units. Enemy cities saw them from far off and thought that they were giants riding normal-sized horses, and would often either give up, or it would lower morale just enough in order to get the upper hand. Probably not the craziest, but pretty creative. Even the USS Texas was assigned to the D-Day invasion. They find the cannons didn't have the reach to keep supporting the troops, so the captain ordered one of the torpedo blisters filled with water. This caused the ship to lean to one side, which increased the arch of fire of its older guns. Biological warfare. The earliest documented incident of the intention to use biological weapons is recorded in Hittite texts of 1500–1200 B.C.E., in which victims of tularemia were driven into enemy lands, causing an epidemic. The Assyrians poisoned enemy wells with the fungus ergot, though with unknown results. Scythian archers dipped their arrows and Roman soldiers their swords into excrements and cadavers. Victims were commonly infected by tetanus as a result. In 1346, the bodies of Mongol warriors of the Golden Horde who had died of plague were thrown over the walls of the besieged Crimean city of Kaffa. Tossing a dead body over the side of a submarine with top-secret invasion plans in a briefcase cuffed to his wrist, to fuck the Nazis when they fell for it. Canadians made spam a war crime. In WW1, Allies would throw spam to nearby German trenches. They would share it, ask for more, and more Germans would gather. Then we threw grenades. Technically, it's the "is it food or a bomb" tactic that's now frowned upon. Iraq versus Iran war. Saddam electrified a swamp full of Iranian troops, then took all the bodies and built a road across the swamp and used it to attack, releasing hundreds of cats onto the battlefield to distract the Egyptian army. U.S. recruiting Navajo radiomen so that their radio signals would be hard to were instrumental in maintaining uninterrupted communications in Iwo Jima and Okinawa. I think it was ancient Cambodia who had the practice of dragging criminals to battle, and were instructed to cut off their own heads to demoralize the enemy. Otherwise their families would be killed. How the Australians cracked the Hindenburg Line in 1918. Step 1 at 5 a.m. Fire a shit ton of gas into German lines. Germans get into gas masks and get ready to be attacked. Step 2 don't attack. Repeat every day for a month. Germans will get used to the routine. Step 3 after 3 weeks. At 5 a.m. fire a shit ton of smoke shells and send 30,000 screaming Anzacs through the haze at masked up and confused Germans. Step 4 be back for breakfast. I vaguely remember a siege where a Chinese city refused to surrender to Genghis Khan. So he asked for a tribute of thousands of pigeons, rats, and cats as a token of respect in exchange for his departure. The city rounded up the various animals and delivered them. And he had his men tie wicks to all the animals and set them aflame before releasing them. The animals all fled back to their homes, setting the city on fire. Kamikaze pilots has to be up there. Marines of Fox Company in Korea used their own dead as decoys for Chinese raids. Chinese would attempt to get close, stab what they thought were sleeping Marines and lazy sentries, just to get filled with lead. Also, the one Chinese officer would speak fluent Chinese to make them think they came across friendlies. Siege of Malta 1565. The militia took a dead Turk, replaced his head with a pig's head and tied the body to a post. When the Muslim Turks saw the body desecrated with filth of a swine, they rushed out in the open to recover the body, which was in a kill zone for an ambush. Inflatable tanks, trucks and fake paratroopers to make the Axis think D-Day was going to happen somewhere else. I don't know if it was just a story, but I heard about this Chinese lord who left the gates to his city open and unmanned before a superior army stormed them. They didn't end up attacking because they thought it was a trap. In Vietnam, the Americans used haunted noises to scare the ops. Genius. William of Normandy sent his best cavalry into battle at the middle of the Saxon line, then suddenly retreat in what seemed like disorganized panic. When they had retreated far enough, the cavalry turned and troops concealed on the two hilltops converged on them. And thus went the Battle of Hastings. The enveloping retreat is very documented and even used as recently as Iraq on is. It works because the soldiers on the ground are so focused on the immediate proximity that they don't think they were laying down a pretty solid lick and now they're retreating. This could be a trap. Instead, it's just charge. I like the propaganda that the British were so accurate in their air attacks because the pilots ate a lot of carrots, which improved their vision. That caught on so well that people to this day still believe that eating carrots is good for your eyes. I don't know if it's crazy or brutal, but Spanish conquistadors would unleash armored mastiff dogs on the indigenous people. The indigenous people hadn't encountered such large dogs, nor had they seen them in war. The dogs would be unleashed and would tear humans apart. The dogs were large, well-trained, armored, and extremely energetic and enthusiastic when set loose on people. In Mexico, a native tribe once destroyed a Spanish attacking force by setting up huge trenches and filling them up with all the peppers they could get their hands on. They proceeded to light it on fire, making a toxic smoke that was extremely painful to breathe. Chemical warfare, baby. Russia strapped mines to dogs and taught them to run under tanks to take care of their Nazi problem and dog overpopulation problem. Only issue was they trained the dogs using Russian tanks. Bouncing bombs, as in Dam Busters the movie. Barnes Wallis came up with the idea and it's still brilliant to me now. Siege warfare. Chucking dead horses over the castle's walls for shock and awe effect and to poison the water supply. Can you imagine dying from a falling rotting horse? Colonel Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain's defense from a Confederate attempt to flank the Union forces on Little Round Top at Gettysburg by pivoting and then ordering a bayonet charge running downhill when ammo was expended was ballsy. Seeing it reenacted in the film Gettysburg gave me a lump in my throat and dust started getting in my eyes. Loved Caesar's double wall at Alesia. Trojan horse. Olga of Kievan Rus and her damn pigeons. Cortés burned his own ships to motivate his soldiers and give them no option for retreat. It was succeed or die. The British announcing to the Muslim guerrillas that they were dipping their ammo in pig fat. Fighting was over in 24 hours.